Namaskar, I am Tilak Divesha and you are watching The Great Game Reloaded. There is a potentially transformative shift taking place in regional geopolitics. Turkey is seeking to join a mutual defense pact between Pakistan and Saudi Arabia, an agreement that treats an attack on one as an attack on both. If implemented, it would create a new strategic axis linking Ankara, Riyadh, and Islamabad from the eastern Mediterranean to the Arabian Sea. What exactly is this pact? Why does Turkey want in? And what does it mean for the balance of power in the Middle East, South Asia, and beyond? Let's break it down. In September 2025, Pakistan and Saudi Arabia signed a strategic mutual defense agreement. The language was stark, and I quote, "Any aggression against either country shall be considered an aggression against both," unquote. This was a collective defense commitment, conceptually similar to NATO's Article 5, though not identical in structure. For decades, Pakistan and Saudi Arabia cooperated informally. Pakistani troops trained Saudi forces. Saudi Arabia repeatedly provided financial lifelines to Pakistan during economic crises. What changed in 2025 was formalization. The pact turned a long-standing relationship into a binding strategic umbrella. Why now? Because Saudi Arabia's faith in a single external guarantor, the United States, has eroded. After the 2019 attacks on Saudi oil facilities and the muted international response, Riyadh began asking, what is the US security shield really worth? Add the Abraham Accords, the Iran-Israel war, and the Israeli strikes in Qatar that rattled the Gulf. Saudi Arabia began to hedge, repairing ties with Iran via China, diversifying partnerships, and turning to a country that offers manpower and training, Pakistan. For Pakistan, the benefits were strategic and economic. Strategically, it positioned Islamabad as a pan-Islamic security provider, not merely a South Asian power. Economically, the pact opened the door to defense industrial cooperation. Reports soon followed of talks to convert billions of dollars in Saudi loans into purchases of Pak China JF-17 fighter jets. A complicating factor to watch, however, is the evolving Saudi-UAE tensions and Pakistan's closer ties with the UAE. Now comes Turkey. According to multiple reports, Ankara is in advanced talks to join the pact. This is not routine diplomacy. Turkey is a NATO member with the alliance's second largest army after the United States. So why seek entry into a separate Muslim-majority defense arrangement? 3 reasons. 1. Doubt about US reliability. Across the Middle East, faith in Washington's guarantee has weakened. After attacks on Saudi oil facilities, the handling of Syria and Yemen, and the perception that US policy is increasingly shaped by domestic politics and unconditional support for Israel. For Ankara, this doubt is existential. Relations with Washington have been turbulent. Sanction over Turkey's purchase of the S-400 system from Russia, disagreements in Syria, and friction over Kurdish groups. By seeking entry into the Pakistan-Saudi Pact, Turkey is hedging, diversifying its security partnerships beyond NATO. Not abandoning NATO, but not relying on it exclusively. Second, strategic convergence with Riyadh and Islamabad. Turkey and Saudi Arabia were rivals for years. Ankara backed the Arab Spring movements that Riyadh viewed as destabilizing. The 2018 Khashoggi killing in Istanbul froze ties. But geopolitics changes. Since 2021, relations have been restored. The two have held their first ever naval cooperation meetings and now coordinate in hotspots like Syria and Sudan. At the same time, Turkey's defense partnership with Pakistan has deepened. Turkish shipyards are building corvettes for the Pakistan Navy. Turkish firms have modernized Pakistan's F-16 fleet. Ankara shares drone technology. Joint exercises are routine. The three now share overlapping interests, countering regional instability, expanding indigenous defense industries, and reducing reliance on Western arms suppliers. On strategic terms, the triangle already exists. The Pact would formalize it. And third, Turkey's ambitions to be a security hub. By joining the Pact, Turkey would embed its defense industry in Gulf and South Asian markets, position itself as a central node in a new security network, and convert military cooperation into long-term political influence. For Ankara, this is not just defense, it is geoeconomics. Consider the complementary strengths. Saudi Arabia, financial power, strategic geography, custodianship of Islam's holiest sites. Pakistan, manpower, nuclear deterrence, missile capabilities, combat tested forces. Turkey, advanced defense industry, NATO standard experience, expeditionary capacity. Together, a bloc less dependent on Washington, a framework that could act independently in regional crisis. That is the strategic leap. Is this a Muslim NATO? Let's be precise. NATO works because the US leads, funds, and enforces discipline. Who would do that here? Saudi Arabia? Pakistan? Turkey? None can command universal acceptance. This is better understood as a defensive arrangement built on mutual threat perception, strategic autonomy, and collective deterrence. Then the US factor. For decades, Middle Eastern security rested on one assumption: the United States is the ultimate guarantor. That assumption is under strain. Allies see selective commitments, a US pivot to the Indo-Pacific, and domestic divisions that make policy unpredictable. The Pakistan-Saudi Pact and Turkey's interest in joining are symptoms of this shift. Not a rebellion against the US, but a hedge against uncertainty. When regional powers design their own collective defense framework, it signals that they no longer believe external protection is sufficient. That is a tectonic change. What does this mean for India? Two implications. One, deterrence complication. If Pakistan is embedded in a pact with Saudi Arabia and potentially Turkey, any major India-Pakistan crisis acquires a wider geopolitical dimension. Even if the pact is not invoked, it raises the cost of escalation. Two, strategic signaling. The alignment underscores that Pakistan is not isolated. It is positioning itself as a security partner across theatres. This does not demand concern from India, but it does require close monitoring. The bigger picture is that this is the restructuring of West Asian security in a multipolar era. No single guarantor, multiple overlapping arrangements, flexible coalitions. For Ankara, this is strategic autonomy. For Riyadh, diversified deterrence. For Islamabad, regional relevance. This is a signal of how the world is changing. I am Tilak Divesha. Thank you for watching. Do like, share and comment. Namaskar and Jai Hind.